Just a few notices before Rossen is giving his speech. Mogens Møller has offered to go through Martinus, the technique of Martinus symbolic diagrams. It will be 3 mornings at 9 o'clock here back in the lecture hall, 9 o'clock Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. It will last about half an hour. And then there is the excursion on Wednesday. It's at 1 o'clock p.m. and it will last about 3 hours. And you are going to see some Viking-based old castles and the church of Horvejle and various other places and a beautiful landscape. I think it would be a good thing if you already now could have an impression of how many would go, since we have to order the bus. So would you kindly, those of you who would like to go to these places on this excursion on Wednesday at 1 o'clock p.m. raise their hands? It depends how many will participate. I think it will be about 10 kroner or it's of course for Danish as well as our foreign guests. Now, thank you. And then tonight, a young Swedish man who had lived in Findhorn for about a year, is going to show 150 color slides on the terrace. Here in this hall, Mogens Møller will give a lecture in Danish at 8 o'clock. So this will only be for the English-speaking people up there in the terrace. And the Danish will go to the lecture here. This evening will be repeated on Thursday for the Danish and Swedish, the Scandinavian. So you won't miss anything if you go to Mogens' lecture on the contrary. So, yes. Oh, did I say for Danish people? Oh, sorry. It's for the English people tonight, and it's the terrace at 8 o'clock. And here for the Danish people, there's a lecture by Mogens Møller at the same time, 8 o'clock. Sorry. For me to give you a clear impression of the structure of the living being in the way it is depicted by Martinus. And especially for our guests who are new this year, I hope you'll be able for me to show that though this picture is very encompassing and inclusive, then it is at the same time very simple in fact. Martinus is describing the living entity as
consisting of three inseparable principles. And these three principles are the highest self of the living being, also called the ego or the I. And the second principle is the creating ability of this self. And the third principle is the created appearance of the living being, being a result of the cells, of the function of the self with its creative ability. These three principles are inseparable in the way that you will never in life find a self without a creative ability and without the result of this collaboration in the form of some kind of appearance. It can be appearance in a physical organism and appearance in your mentality, in your psyche, in your personality. All of that which you are able to experience belongs to this third principle, this third field, the field of time and space, the field where we use energies, where we are able to experience and where we can create. Tomorrow I look forward to explain to you more deeply the nature of the self and the principles ruling in our creative ability. But today I want to concentrate on the third principle, on the creative principle. I want to say before I start analyzing this third principle that just as you won't ever find a self isolated or alone, so you will never find any created thing in the universe without there is a creative ability behind this appearance, and without this creative ability is used by a self. Well, let us start with the created principle, the created appearance of the living being, both its physical appearance and its spiritual or mental or conscious appearance. And you will see how Martinus has depicted a cross in the middle of this field, depicting our appearance. And this cross shows us that in the center of our appearance, of our nature, we have the perfectness, the absolute perfectness. But we are not always aware of this perfectness inside us. And nevertheless, it exists, but it exists as an unconscious reality inside us. You could call it the divine spark in the soul of man. And it is the meaning of our development, of our maturation, that we should come on the track of this perfectness existing inside us. But you will also see that this perfectness is locked out by this ring colored by the orange color. And this color is referring to this special kind of energy, which I'm going to explain a little further for you in a moment. Now, let us see how are the nature of these 6 fundamental energies by which the living entity is able to create his existence, his appearance. I think this is an evident sign of Martinus' genius, that he is able to describe all kinds of manifestations of the living being as only referring to 6 fundamental energies. All that you can experience and all that you can imagine existing in the world can come into existence by combination of only these 6 fundamental energies. The first of these energies, and the most primitive one, is the one called the energy of instinct. And this instinct we are using in our organism. The instinct energy is an automatic way of living. It is both an automatic and a very logical and purposeful way of acting and functioning. We know from the animal kingdom the concept of instincts. It's from there we have borrowed these concepts. And in this animal kingdom, this concept is referring to the fact that the animals, without being conscious and without having intelligence, are able to live in a logical and a purposeful way. There are inbuilt in animals instinctual rules so that they automatically know how to live, how to get their food, how to bring up their youngsters, how to get a family, how to build a nest, and so on. And if we go further to the human being, a self, we will see that the instinctual forces are still very prevailing in our organism and in our behavior. So this instinct, it is very naturally only to take care of the individual himself. So we see the energy of instinct is purely egoistic. It has only the aim of securing the fully existence and the satisfaction of all the needs which the organism has. And this energy of instinct do not take care of your fellow men, of other living beings, besides or except your own family, your youngsters, and or your male or your female. But beyond this little scope, this energy has no feeling, no compassion, no sympathy with other living beings. In reality, here in this energy, we have the root, the real root of egotism. But in the animal kingdom, which is the natural field for this instinctual energy, in this kingdom, it is very natural that this energy is ruling. Because how should animals, without intelligence, without higher feelings, be able to live, be able to exist, without having these defense mechanisms and all these automatic functions so that it could exist in a dangerous world? But as natural as these instincts are in the animal kingdom, as unnatural and as destructing they are in a kingdom of real human beings. In our world, these egoistic instincts are an enemy, you can say. It is a tendency in us which we have to struggle against, to conquer, in order to be a real human being. The next of the 6 great basic energies is the energy of gravity. It is easy to misunderstand the inner idea of this energy, considering the name the energy of gravity, because you might think that this energy has something to do with the gravitational field of the globe, that things are heavy and fall to the globe, to the earth, to the ground. But that is a misunderstanding. In fact, this energy is an explosive energy. That means an energy having the direction from the center and outwards. And this energy is the inner dynamic force behind any kind of movement. You see, if this movement is very fast, then it becomes an explosion. And especially when it is uncontrolled, then it becomes an explosion. And then this energy will become very, very dangerous. This energy is in pure culture identical with explosion and with fire, Martinus teaches. It is identical with fire. And when we, as an organic being, have a certain temperature in our organism, then it is due to the functioning of this energy, this explosive energy. We know from the chemistry and biology that in all of our cells, in our organism, small explosions are taking place, giving the warmth to this organism. In this perspective, we see that this energy is a very useful energy, because it gives all the warmth of the universe and of our organism, and it is the dynamic force behind movements. We would not be able to move a hand without this energy behind, functioning behind it. So this energy is very useful. And in this, by this, I would like to say that all of these 6 energies are very useful, and none of them can be omitted. Only in the combination of just these 6 energies, the universe can exist and the living being can exist. But besides being so useful, this energy of gravity is also very dangerous. And you can imagine that, because when an explosion is allowed to take place without control, then it is destructing. And this energy is used and functioning both in our physical organism and, moreover, also in our consciousness. And here we find the source of the dangerous possibilities of this energy. Because when we get angry, and when we get irritated, or when we have an outburst of rage, well, what is this? It is in reality an explosion in our mentality, showing that we are not yet able to control this dangerous mental energy. And we must confess, I think, that people can outburst this energy to such degree that they are able to destroy things around them, destroy furnitures and things in the house and so on. I think all of us have experienced that, but I hope not too often, and I hope not for yourself. But we know that this state exists, and the explanation lies in the uncontrolled condition of this dangerous energy. And one of the main goals of man's development is just to get full control, to harmonize this energy so that it only can be used in its positive way and not its negative way. And this energy, moreover, we can use in a destroying way in a war. What is a war? When you send aeroplanes over the countries of your enemies and drop bombs over their cities, bombs exploding and destroying big cities and perhaps killing thousands of people. What is that but uncontrolled use in the outer world of this explosive energy? In man's mind, in his consciousness, what energy in there is able to control, to stop this explosive energy? Well, there must be one of these 6 energies which has just the opposite characteristic. So it is able to stop the outburst of this energy, and that is the next of the great energies, called the energy of feeling. As the energy of gravity in pure culture is identical with fire and explosion, this energy in its pure culture is identical with coldness. And I think when I say that, some of you will be a little surprised, because it's difficult to see how feelings could be identified with coldness. But I asked you to remember that I said in pure culture, and these energies we will never find in pure culture. They are always combined. Our emotional life is always based on the combination, altering combinations between these two energies. And therefore, you will never come to the opposite pole, to the absolute opposite poles in this spectrum, to absolute coldness or to absolute fire, but you will always have your feelings in a certain middle field in this spectrum. But in pure culture, it is identical with coldness, and by that fact, it is able to break the energy of explosion, or able to stop it, even able to stop it. This is the more mechanical way of this energy functioning. But if we consider it in the way it functions in our consciousness, in our personality, we will see that this feeling energy is identical with our sympathy, with our love for other living beings. When we feel affection for our humans, then it is this energy which is reigning, which is prevailing in our personality, and it is stronger in our personality than the energy of gravity. So, in order to get full control over the energy of gravity, it is necessary that we develop mastery of this energy, because energy can only be mastered by energy. The only thing which is not energy, the living entity, is the self. The self has to use energies toward or against energies in order to experience those kinds of experiences which he likes. The next of the great energies are the energy of intelligence. And we know that intelligence is the ability to use your experiences in a purposeful way and do it conscious. And that's the difference to the energy of instinct. The instincts also function perfect, but in an unconscious way. The intelligence is the name of a new conscious intellectual way of functioning, and it is based on experiences. Experiences you get through your daily life. It is the ability to remember the event, remember what was the cause, what was the effect, and the ability to use this knowledge of cause and effect. The feeling energy is the dynamic energy behind sympathy and love. But I must stress, and I think we are here in harmony with what our American guests told yesterday, feeling energy in itself is not able to create pure love, because this energy is only a dynamic one and has no inner steering capacity. In order that the feelings of sympathy can be really a boon and a blessing for our surroundings, these feelings must be balanced by intelligence. That means by our experiences. And that means that we use the right means in order to get to the right ends. Also, this energy, intelligence, is, so you see, very useful. But nevertheless, this energy is only, you could say, a sub-intellectual energy, because this energy has in itself no value, no value orientation, meaning that it can be used in the service both of evil and good. We see and we know from our daily life that intelligence can be used in the service of primitive egoistic instincts. That is what is taking place when we make war, when we make machines for destructing other living creatures. In that situation, we have the motive in our primitive territorial instinct, and we have the dynamic in our gravity energy, our anchorness, and we have the steering power in the combination as that power by which we are able to make these machines in a logical way. On account of that, you can understand that intelligence is a lower kind of intellectual energy, and there must exist another kind of intellectual steering energy which is more far-ranging and which has a better and finer function than this intelligence. And that energy is the energy of intuition. By intuition, we come to the fifth of the six energies. And this energy is the most sublime and the most penetrating of the six fundamental energy which the living entity is able to use. In fact, this energy is the wavelength of God's own thought and creativity. And on account of that, we can understand why we have not access to this energy before we have got mature for the using of this high spiritual energy. Not before our sympathy have got full control with the energy of gravity, and our feelings have been fully controlled by our intelligence, so that all our motives are both logical and sympathetic. Only then we have become so pure in our heart that we would be able to see God. Because we remember from Jesus Christ that only the pure in heart will be able to see God. And not least the expression see. To see God is a very precise description of what is taking place by use of intuition. Because Martinus teaches that real intuition is a process to see. It's a capacity to see, not physically, spiritually. To see the fundamental structure of the universe. To see through the physical world and see the inner structure behind the outer appearance. And in that structure, see the ideas and the projects of God. And only by getting access to this energy, by using this energy, you can be on a wavelength with God and be His collaborator in creating His kingdom on this globe. Of course, God can use all human beings. He can also use criminals, and He can use animals. He can use all living beings, whatever stage in evolution they have at the moment. But in order to be a more effective tool for the divine, for God, then we have to develop this mental balance and get access to this intuitional energy. This energy is, in a very special way, using the sixth energy, which I'm coming to now, the energy of memory. You see, normally we can only use a little part of our memories. We cannot remember what took place, all the things that took place years ago or in our childhood, not to talk about what took place in former incarnations. But whatever we have experienced still exists, stored in our body of memory. And some of these memories can be experienced as a seeing process by intuition. This should not be understood in the way that we can have copies of our old memories in our consciousness by use of this intuition. It means that intuition is able to contact the principles or the totals of the memories of our eternal past, but not the details. The details belong to the function of our memory body. Intuition is only able to grasp and see the totals. Therefore, by this special mental energy, you are able to see that you have been an animal some time ago, that you have been a plant, that you have been a mineral, that you have existed in former evolutionary spirals, that you have existed in the spiral of organs, of molecules, and of atoms. And by that, you can understand that you simply will be able to see by your own capacity of intuition that you are an eternal being and have an eternal existence. When you get this balance in your mind and get access to intuition, well, then the inner heaven will open and you can get into contact with your inner purposeness. And this ring of the energy of gravity, of the explosion explosive energies will break down. And now I think you understand why it is this energy which locks out the inner perfectness in us. Because this energy, explosive energy, the uncontrolled form of this, is the greatest adversity, the greatest contrast to perfectness. That is the real evil we have to conquer. Now, I like to start this lecture by telling that all of these 6 energies are never existing in a pure state. They are always combinated in many kinds of combination, in many variations. But we have 6 organisms, not only this physical organism, but we have 6 organisms, different organisms, in which each of these 6 energies are prevailing or dominating. The other energies are also existing in every one of the 6 organisms, but one of the energies is dominating. So, we have had an organism of instinct when we were plants. And we still have a degenerated instinct organism in our physical organism to the degree we are still using this organism as an automatically functioning organism by which we can experience life in a non-intellectual way, sensing and acting and so on. But now, as an animal and as a human being, which is a transitional being, we have a gravitational organism, a physical organism, in which this energy is dominating. But behind this physical organism, we have 4 other organisms, one of which is also degenerating, namely the body of the memory. But these 3 bodies are developing now, but they have not fully developed. They are just existing as what you could call, and what Martinus calls, fetus. They are fetus bodies. We have a fetus body of feeling. This fetus body is existing behind this physical organism. When you have special senses, clairvoyance and senses like that, you'll be able to see these energy bodies behind the physical body. And this body is a fetus. It is not yet full grown. And that means that we are not now able to transfer the divine love through our organism, because that claims a full-grown feeling organism. But it is not full-grown yet, but it is under development. It is growing. And here we see one of the fundamental principles of life. That is the principle of growth. We see that principle all over in nature. Everything grows, plants grows, animals grows, and we grows, our organism grows, and so it is with what we call our spiritual abilities. They are also based on organic principles where the growing process is taking place. And behind this fetus, which is that fetus of the tree, which is most fully grown out. It is more fully grown out than the fetus of intelligence. Intelligence body is existing behind the fetus body of feeling. And they are invisible for our physical senses. But by cosmic senses and by clairvoyance, and I would say that some of the new experiments within parapsychology and paraphysics, you are able to have some evidence also of these invisible energy bodies existing behind our physical body. But the body of intuition is not even a fetus. It is a recurrent. Meaning that this faculty, the ability to use this energy, is for the moment, for animals, and to a great degree for human beings, latent. It is latent. It is an ability which is asleep yet. And we can understand that because it is the highest and most penetrating, most sublime energy existing. It is representing the sphere of God's own thought. And of course, as animals and as primitive human beings, we cannot contact and use this high energy. It is latent. It is a kernel. But as it is a kernel, which is the first beginning, which is identical with the seed, we have here the first beginning for a fetus, which can grow on and gradually become a full-grown organism. But that will last very, very long time. The first organism which will be able to be full-grown is the organism of feeling. And when that happens, we are not anymore animals. Then we will be real human beings. And when that happens, that our consciousness can use this energy fully, then also the energy of intelligence will be rather developed, and this kernel will have started being a fetus, so that it more or less unconsciously can give its energy to the consciousness, to our day consciousness. So you see, though we primarily live and have our consciousness based on this special body, our gravitational body, nevertheless, the effects of the functioning of the other bodies will also impact our consciousness, but more or less in an unconscious way. Tomorrow I would like to tell you how these bodies are dependent on our creative ability, and tell you about the rules of how we get new talent, how this growing mechanism works, and what fantastic powers are lying within that phenomenon we call the wish. But that will be tomorrow.